All right. Ready to dive into some really cool stuff about making those first impressions count.
Absolutely. Should be fun.
We're tackling Nicholas Boothman's How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. This deep dive, I think people are going to get a lot of practical tips from this one. You want to nail that job interview, or maybe like even just meeting someone new at, I don't know, a coffee shop or something.
Yeah, those first few moments, they're huge, right?
Totally. They can make or break the whole interaction. So Boothman, he's got all these secrets for making those 90 seconds really matter.
I mean, what I think is so fascinating about his work, it's like he's taking this thing that most people think is all like an art form, this whole making connections thing,
Right.
and he's like actually breaking it down scientifically.
Well, that's cool.
The psychology, even the biology behind why we click with some people and not others,
Hmm.
how we can be more aware of that and really use it.
Huh. So it's like he's giving us like the cheat codes to human interaction.
Kinda, yeah. And he starts with something we don't always think about. It's not just about being charming, like as a nice to have,
Right.
connecting with people. It's actually essential for us,
Mhm.
for like our well-being. Yeah,
Really?
there's studies that show like strong social connections, they can be as good for you as quitting smoking.
Oh, wow. I had no idea it was that big of a deal.
It's a huge deal. We're talking about tapping into this like basic human need to connect. It affects our health, our happiness, everything.
Okay, so if it's so important for us, what's Boothman say about those first 90 seconds?
He says they are critical, like make or break for establishing that connection.
90 seconds. That's so fast. Why is that initial little window so important?
Well, think about it. When you meet someone new, like in those first few seconds, your brain, or like your subconscious, really, it's going into overdrive,
Knuckles. Yeah, okay.
sizing them up, looking for all these cues,
Mhm.
trying to figure out, like, friend or foe, can I trust this person? Are they a threat? It's all happening super fast.
So it's like our brains are just hardwired to make these really snap judgments, and we're not even aware of it half the time.
Exactly. And those judgments, they're mostly based on nonverbal stuff.
Yeah.
It's your body language, tone of voice, facial expressions,
Mm.
even just how you're standing.
Interesting.
All those little subtle signals,
Mm-hmm.
our subconscious picks up on them.
So if our subconscious is making all these decisions, how can we, I don't know, hack the system? How do we make sure we're sending the right messages in those 90 seconds?
Boothman has this really simple but effective process. He calls it the greeting template.
Okay.
5 steps. Starts with open body language. Picture someone coming at you, arms crossed, not making eye contact.
Not very approachable.
No. But if they come up to you, open arms, maybe a warm smile,
Yeah.
totally different vibe.
Night and day.
Uh,
It's like they're saying, hey, I'm happy to meet you without even saying it.
Exactly. And that's just step 1. Then you've got direct eye contact, not creepy stare, obviously, but looking at them, genuinely engaging.
Right.
And then, of course, the smile. A genuine smile, there's actual biology behind this. It can be incredibly disarming.
That's a
When you smile, you release endorphins. But here's the thing, the person who sees you smile, they get a little hit of endorphins too. It creates this like subconscious loop of positivity.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, we've got open body language, eye contact, and a smile. What are the last two steps to this greeting template thing?
Number 4 is simple but important. A clear verbal greeting. Could be as easy as hello, a friendly good morning, or even it's great to finally meet you. So they to acknowledge them.
Makes sense.
And then, last but not least, this is cool, Boothman suggests a slight lean in.
A lean in. What's the thinking behind that?
It's subtle, but it shows interest, like you're
Hmm.
saying, I'm leaning in to hear what you have to say without actually saying it.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so all these things together, I can see how they'd add up to make a positive first impression. But I have to ask, I mean, is there a point where it's too much? Like, if someone's overly enthusiastic or trying too hard, it seems like it could backfire.
You're totally right, and that's where congruence is so important. Basically, it's all about authenticity.
Gotcha.
People can spot a fake a mile away. Like, if your words and your body language don't match up, it sets off alarm bells. Our internal lie detectors go off,
Yeah.
and we're like, wait a minute, something's not right here.
Right, right. Even if we don't know exactly why, we get that feeling.
Exactly. Congruence is about making sure all of it, your words, your tone, those facial expressions, your body language, they all line up.
Authenticity. Gotcha.
Exactly. Being genuinely yourself. That's what puts people at ease.
Makes sense.
Now, speaking of aligning yourself with others, this is interesting. Boothman talks about mirroring and matching. Have you ever noticed how, like, in a good conversation, you might naturally start to, mirror the other person's posture or something?
Oh, yeah, all the time. If they're leaning back, I find myself leaning back. Or we both reach for our drinks at the same time. It's funny when you notice it.
Right. It's like this unspoken synchronicity.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Boothman's saying we can actually use that intentionally, this mirroring, to build rapport.
Okay, interesting.
Now, don't worry, this isn't about being a copycat.
Right.
You don't want to freak anyone out.
No, definitely not.
It's more subtle than that. It's about reflecting their energy. If they're speaking softly, maybe you lower your volume a little. If they use their hands a lot when they talk, you might incorporate a few more hand gestures yourself. Little things like that.
So it's about, like, meeting them on their level, showing them that you're tuned in to how they communicate.
Exactly. But, I mean, you definitely have to be careful with this, you know.
Right.
The key is to be subtle, sincere. If someone feels like you're mocking them, that's obviously going to backfire.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got mirroring, being aware of our body language. What else does Boothman talk about when it comes to making those connections?
He's a big believer in asking the right questions.
Okay.
Specifically, open-ended questions, you know, the ones that can't just be answered with yes or no.
Right.
It makes such a difference. Those closed-ended questions, they can really bring a conversation to a screeching halt.
It's the difference between are you enjoying the party and what are you enjoying most about the party?
Exactly. One keeps things super surface level. The other invites them to actually share something.
It shows you're actually interested in what they have to say.
Exactly. Open-ended questions, they encourage people to open up, share their thoughts, their feelings. And this actually ties into another cool idea from the book, the concept of dominant senses.
Dominant senses.
Yeah. So Boothman argues that we all experience the world through our senses, obviously, right?
Right.
But we each tend to favor one. Like we have a dominant sense. It could be visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. It's basically our preferred way of processing information.
That's interesting. I've heard of, like, learning styles, visual learners versus auditory learners, that kind of thing. But I never really thought about it in terms of, like, a dominant sense. How does that play into making a connection, though?
Well, it's super helpful because it lets you tailor your communication style to really resonate with someone.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's say you're talking to someone who's highly visual.
Yeah.
You might say something like, "Can you picture this?" Or "Let me paint you a picture." And they'll instantly connect with that imagery.
It's like you're speaking their language, their sensory language. I like it.
Exactly. So how do you figure out someone's dominant sense? Well, Boothman says, pay attention to the words they use.
Yeah.
Visual people tend to use words that evoke images. Things like clear, bright, see, perspective. Auditory people, they're drawn to words related to sound, so you might hear them say hear, tell, resonate, harmony. And then kinesthetic people, they use words that are all about physical sensations and emotions, things like feel, touch, grasp, solid.
It's like a secret code.
Right.
We're not just listening to what they're saying, we're paying attention to how they're saying it.
Exactly. Their words can tell you a lot about their dominant sense. Another clue, eye movements. Have you ever noticed how people's eyes kind of dart around when they're thinking?
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, yeah.
It's like they're accessing different parts of their brains.
It's like their eyes are giving us a window into how their brain works. That's so cool.
Right. And there's even more. Boothman says you can look at how people dress, how they carry themselves.
Okay.
Like someone who's visually oriented, they might be drawn to really bold colors, striking patterns, you know, while somebody who's more kinesthetic might be all about comfort, clothes that are functional.
So if we're paying attention to all these little clues, we can really fine-tune how we communicate with someone. It's like instead of just talking at them, we can actually connect with them on their level.
Exactly. I love that. Connect with them on their level. And I think that's what's so powerful about Boothman's work. You know, he's not just giving us like a bag of tricks. It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
He's reminding us how important empathy is, how important genuine connection is, especially in a world that can feel so disconnected sometimes.
That's such a good point. So as we're kind of wrapping up our deep dive here, I'm curious, for someone listening who's like, all right, I'm ready to put these ideas into practice, where would you suggest they start?
Honestly, just start paying attention. Start with yourself. Like, what kind of nonverbal signals are you sending out? Do you even know?
It's easy to not even think about that stuff.
Right. And then start observing other people, their body language, the words they use, those eye movements. You'll be amazed by how much you can learn just by really observing someone.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world opens up.
It really is. And then, don't be afraid to experiment a little. Try out the greeting template. See what happens when you mirror someone's energy. Ask those open-ended questions.
You might feel weird at first.
Maybe a little. But trust me, with practice, It becomes second nature.
For sure. Well, I don't know about you, but I am feeling ready to go out there and connect. This has been super insightful.
Me too. It's a good reminder that even like the tiniest interactions can be an opportunity to connect with someone.
Absolutely. You never know where that might lead. Could be a new friend, a cool collaboration, or maybe, you just brighten someone's day. And that's pretty powerful too. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of first impressions. We'll see you next time.